Inter fans, and welcome to a brand new episode of International Corner. We have a jam-packed episode with 3 away games in the space of a week. And also we have, of course, our Richard Hall here waiting for us to go and explore or reminisce about past episodes of the encounters we're about to talk about, which of course is the game against Napoli. Hello, Richard Hall, how are you?
I'm very well, thank you. It's a shame to be back here in the UK. I much preferred it when I was out in Milan with you guys. But yeah, back here and looking forward to the game, of course, against Napoli, because I got some very special memories of that game. So it'd be quite interesting to look through the past games.
Not only past games, of course, because here we are exploring all the games that happened in the week, of course, and what's the state of Inter or the black and blue world up to now. So I say I'm pretty positive, I'm pretty confident, I'm pretty relaxed, I'm happy and pumped about what's going to happen and about what happened as well. If you take first the game against Roma, that was the game against Gasperini's Roma. There was a lot of expectations in terms of the game itself. Probably this game is going to tell us a lot about the condition of Inter and the condition of Roma. What do you make of the start of that game?
Yeah, from my point of view, I think that games like this at the start of the season are always going to be difficult. Like you say, you're looking at a team with Gasperini and Roma that are also in a bit of transition and growth. And I think they will grow. I think what was really impressive for Inter was the fact that they got that result. I thought Jan Sommer in particular was exceptional in this game, but was showing to find an identity, which has to be a little bit newer. He's got to keep some of the old that we had from the past, but I think Kivu is certainly putting his identity on the squad. For me personally, I don't know about you, but I find that we have a lot of fight in us, and it's encouraging. And I think it'll show us a long way in the future, because he's certainly motivating the team to really perform to the levels we want them to be.
I think you're right. I mean, Kivu, we talked about charisma, the personality, and the way now it started to come out as well in the media, the way the lads have started to love him. You've seen plenty of hugs, plenty of representation of Kivu as a man of the dressing room. So that's, I think, how I would call it from now on. And a man of his dressing room is a man that himself knows very well from Parma, Angie Bonni, who scored on that night. The 1-0 was scored by Angie. And surprisingly enough, there is a lot of stats going around Angie Bonni. Do you know some of them? So,
you're going to test me, aren't you?
Since the start of the campaign, he took part 6 times in a goal with 3 assists and 3 goals, correct?
Yeah, I mean, from my point of view, I think when you look at that, I think that obviously the relationship he has, but also when you go into a club, this is no disrespect to Parma whatsoever, but you're taking a step up. And for me, even though maybe when you look at that forward lineup, you're looking at the likes of Thuram, you're looking at Martinez, and you're thinking and you're thinking, am I going to start? Am I going to focus and be that focus? But he's not concerned about it, and he's taking that on massively.
By the way, this goal, I didn't, it's like, what's going on here? Is this happening, this goal? How that came about was pretty funny, wasn't it?
Oh yeah, massively. I mean, I think that with him, what's so great about him is he feels ready-made to just fit in. He's not trying to. It doesn't feel like he's trying to compete with the strikers he's got. He knows his job. He knows what he's doing, and his pace, his directness, and also his calmness has really surprised me, and I think it's really impressive. And I think that when if Inter are going to go a long way this season, and we're talking about obviously with the Scudetto, the Coppa Italia, and in Europe as well, you need extra players like this who are going to put in shifts like he did against Roma. And
especially now considering Thuram is out injured and he won't be playing tomorrow. You need to have a strong backup. And I want to stress this, that Kivu said many times before that it doesn't consider that there's a starting 11 and then the other players. He always says all of my players are potential starting 11. And they all need to be ready to come on whenever I demand. And we've seen this happening pretty often, where more or less most players have come on. There's just two that he mentioned today in the press conference, Andy Diouf and Luis Enrique, that have not had so much game time, but we'll talk about it in a bit, about what he said in the press conference. But yeah, I think that the alternatives we've got, so to say from Latula, so Thuram and Lautaro, are pretty stunning, I think.
When you look at Inzaghi the season before, and now Kivu's sort of taking that on, everyone got their time. There's been a thing with Inter where people have always been given game time, and sometimes that can feel risky, like he did at the start of last season. But I don't think it is. I think that every single player in Inter colours is ready to come on. I mean, I'm sure we'll talk about it later, but Esposito has been another great shining light for us this year. We've seen his brother in the past, and two brothers in different guises, but the younger ones come up and made a mark. And I think that Kivu knows that dressing room is so important. He's taking that on. He's moving it up, and like you say, he's a motivator, isn't he? He's certainly a motivator, and you can tell by his celebrations on the touchline he wants to win. And I think it comes across with the players, and no matter who's going on that pitch, they know what their job is, and I think that's one of the great things for him that he's put across so far.
With that 1-0 win in Roma, the Nerazzurri are actually the first team in the history of Serie A to win 5 away games against the Giallorossi, which is pretty stunning as a statistics. You were talking about Pier Esposito. If we go on into the next game that Inter played in the week, of course, the Champions League game away in Belgium against Union Saint-Gilloise, Pier Esposito scored his first Champions League goal. Again, a party overall, that game. We didn't know what to expect really from that game because, of course, Union Saint-Gilloise had won their league, the Pro League in Belgium the previous year. A team that is very aggressive, and the first 10-15 minutes were ridiculous. We didn't know what was going to happen. We didn't expect it to be like that, I don't think, personally. I didn't think that they were going to be so quick, so pressing, so much, and so aggressive. But then we turned the game around, and you tell me how we did that.
I think it's about quality, if I'm really honest. I mean, you look at that game, and just as you've said, the first part of that game was a bit worrying. The atmosphere was way more than I thought it was going to be.
Yeah, because they were playing at the Anderlecht Stadium. Do you remember that?
Absolutely.
Yeah, because their stadium is only small, so they decided to take the game to the Anderlecht Stadium. And I've been studying a bit of this. Their supporters are very, very strong and warm, and they only cheer for them, so they never cheer against the opponent. So I could hear them a lot from the television. Could you?
Oh, massively. Yeah. And it came across, and you thought that sometimes you can get Champions League nights or European nights where you think, okay, this is going to be a relatively easy show, if you, for want of better words. But this didn't look like it, and I think that this is where I go back to the statement about quality. I think once Inter got into the game and the first goals went in, I think that whilst there was a similarity in approach and atmosphere, I think that the quality came across. And look, I mean, it was certainly one where Inter needed to be clinical. Could they have had? I think actually Inter could have had more goals in a strange way, but they were excellent on the night, and they needed to be clinical. And it was a tough game, but they've come across it and they've done well. And it just keeps going to show the identity of this team, which is they've got a little more toughness about them at the moment, it feels like. We
were looking at some mishaps by Lautaro and Esposito, and that was funny as well to watch. But no, you've got what you appreciate a lot about this team is the amount of chances as well they create, and they always try to attack and to make a move. That's what I appreciate a lot this season as well. Chala didn't have to, for his goal, he had to cope with a very small goal that time, because I thought that keeper, it was a 6'9", I think, so 2 meter or 5. I was watching the game with my son. My son came over and said, why is the goal so small? I said, no, it's not the goal, it's the keeper, he's huge. But yet again, of course, if you have got such a record in scoring penalties like Chala has, there's no keeper, it doesn't matter the size of the keeper, it's all about being confident and putting the ball where you want to put it.
But
and that's exactly what
you look at that penalty, and this is showing my age again, as I'm sure we'll get to. But, it reminded me of when you look at Andreas Bremer in the World Cup final in 1990 against Goicoechea. Sergio Goicoechea is a great penalty saver, the good keeper. But when you put the ball into that far corner, any goalkeeper in the world isn't saving that. I don't care if he's 6'9", 7 foot tall or whatever. That it's impossible. And okay, he sent him the wrong way. But I think that we just had that more quality. And just going back to Esposito, when he, what I liked about him is, you're right, he did have, I think, 2 chances that he definitely missed.
Yeah.
But he never gave up, and in the end, he was there. And for me, it's that confidence of a good striker that you can see he's sweating, he's tired, he's worked for it, and it's important. And it's when we just talked about Bonnie, we already know about Thuram's injury. Martinez, we know Lautaro inside out. It's a really good top 4 strikers we've got that can, again, what you're saying about Kivu, the fact that they're all getting games, though, I think they all now are on form, which is an incredible thing to have.
You're talking about Piero Esposito wanting that goal. He wanted it really, really, really much. And he's the youngest player for Inter to score a first Champions League goal at the age of 20 years, and 115 days. Only Mario Balotelli did score a goal when at a younger age, 18 years of age and 84 days. Back in November 2008. If you want to bring some youngsters, and I must say, I really have to say this, you couldn't pick 2 players that were more opposite in terms of personality. If you compare young Mario and young Pio, even the name Pio says a lot about Pio. Pio here is somebody who's very in his thoughts, very calm and prays, because it's a religious kind of name. And I'm not saying that Pio does that, but Pio is really, really calm, relaxed, so polite. It's not flamboyant or exuberant, to put it in nicer words.
No, completely. I remember back in the day, I don't know if it was against Rostov or Ludogorets, I can't remember now, but I know that Balotelli, when he came onto the scene in that sort of campaign, it was always being a bit, like you say, complete opposite. It was the spectacular, whereas Pio has come in, he's worked hard, and he's not got himself down when it's not worked, and he's continued to have that. And I think that's something that's really, when you look into the history of Inter, this sounds silly, but he's an Inter player. It's something you'd expect from someone like Javier Zanetti, Lothar Matthäus, people who just grind out wins, grind out that performance, and keep going. Barella's another one that I would like to say, is very similar. Di Marco. Those players who just put it all in. So
I'm starting to think that Kivu is the work that he's done working with younger lads back in the youth squads has taught him a lot. I have a past as well in working with children and young lads, and I think that you learn a lot in terms of working with people in general. So working with children teaches you how to communicate, to be assertive, but also to be a leader. And I think, I'm not saying he didn't have that skill before, but with that experience is what taught him how to communicate and to keep the group together, motivate them, and still have a group of good soldiers.
100%, Lina. And I think that when you look back, you look at Stramacchioni back in the past, when we won the Next Gen series, there's a lot of players.
You mean Stramaccioni? I've got to correct.
Stramaccioni, sorry.
Sorry.
My Italian's terrible. You all know that. I knew there was going to be something against my Italian or my age.
No, wait. Hold on, everybody, because Richard is so cheeky. He wanted to hide something, but I just spotted it. I think he's broken his finger. Have you? Show it to me.
Okay. So
where are you?
Talking of working with children.
Yeah.
My little boy's goalkeeper, and he's doing really well. And he said to me, he wants to see me go back into goal, because I used to be a goalkeeper, only semi-pro. So last night at 2 nights ago at 45, I made my comeback in goal. I had a good game, but even with the gloves with the spines and the wrist supports, I still managed to break my finger. So yeah,
So
I wouldn't.
it's
Yeah,
over. It's over before it even started, basically. Yeah.
pretty much. It's done. So yeah, thanks for that though. Thanks for that one.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So, but no, talking of youngsters, it's like you say, like even coaching my young lads team and doing what you do. I do think that Inter have been sort of missing out on that, for a while about how they get the youngsters and bring them through. And I think it's something that's really important in Italian football, not just for Inter, but for a lot of teams in the league, where it can't be overshadowed. And we've seen players come through from the youth system, and the Primavera is really important. And
Yep.
I think that it's something we need to keep on with. And I think Kivu is excellent for that. And it's going to be great to see some more players hopefully come through.
For the first time in history, we are looking also at not just the attacking department, but also the defense. For the first time in history, Inter won the first 3 matches in the Champions League, keeping as well a clean sheet. There you go. So before we go into the Napoli game, I want to talk about the defensive department, because we got a unit at the back, Manuel Akanji.
Yeah.
It's a unit, isn't it?
Yeah, it is massive. It is a unit.
That doesn't mean much. I mean, it's a unit, but it still's got, like, do you remember we were talking about Baracetta and all that? He can do a lot for the squad, and I think we've seen that as a weapon that we've got. Our defensive department is so versatile, and Manuel Akanji is probably now the symbol of that versatility that we got in that department.
Yeah, 100%. I think Akanji's done incredibly well since he's come in, and I think that's what's been quite nice when we've talked before about Esposito coming in, but also obviously up front. But in defence, there's a lot of obviously the likes of Bastoni. We've seen De Vrij as well. Dumfries with getting in with the goals as well, but with Akanji and someone who I will always wax lyrical about is Jan Sommer, who constantly amazes me in the way that the calmness that he gives the back 4, back 3, whatever it needs to be at the time. And then you look at Akanji, who's fitted in really, really well. And what I like about him as well is he allows the likes of then Dumfries and Di Marco to go forward. And it's the trust that they have with the people at the back. And when you have that, and you can look behind you and think, well, Bastoni's there, Akanji's there, Sommer's there. It's a really big thing. So yeah, it's a good addition, a really good addition to the squad.
Manuel Akanji is about to see an old friend from a team in England, Man City, yeah? Because we are, of course, facing Napoli, and the old friend I'm referring to is Kevin De Bruyne, I've heard to say, from a Belgian player in our inter-women's squad. We got 2 Belgian players, by the way.
Yes.
Yeah. What do you think is going to be like let's talk about this friendship first, and then we'll talk about the rest.
Yeah. Well, the one thing I was going to say about the whole situation is that there's a lot of English players that are coming, or players who played in the Premier League who are coming to Serie A.
Some of them there's a high density of population of former players in England at Napoli.
Yes.
Yeah, there's 3.
Yeah, massively. Obviously, Conte's had a little bit of influence in that as well.
Of course.
But even when you look at Inter in the past, the likes of Ashley Young, Lukaku came over. There's a wealth of players. Mickey's come over. And done, and players who've really worked in Serie A and really done really well. And, it's going to be a really interesting game, because you look at Napoli, and I mean, one thing that people keep talking about in England is the transition of Scott McTominay.
Yeah.
I mean, it's phenomenal. When he left England, he was seen as a washed up, bad, poor defensive midfielder. And now
these are not your words, correct?
No. It's the media. It's the media, not mine. I have a lot of time for him. And he's like one of the best number 10s in Serie A. And it's just the exposure to maybe, people say sometimes people don't fit in the Premier League or in Liga. Sometimes people do fit in Serie A or don't. And I think the tactical intelligence, I think he's intelligent because his tactical brain is switched on. He understands what Conte's doing. He has the work ethic. And, you see Gilmore, another player, they seem to have this. And obviously, De Bruyne is another one who's gone there, and this isn't my words, but the English media was saying he's finished. and he's going to go to Saudi Arabia. Next thing he goes to
He's
Napoli.
finished, but from what I saw, he's now, for some reason, he's now the top scorer with Napoli with 3 goals, all from set pieces. But still, though, I wouldn't say he didn't contribute to all the results that the team got. So I would say that's not the case. I mean, and I've always said this. Okay, some players get injured because of age. Get injured more often than others, and Kevin has been out on injury quite a lot. But I strongly believe in the fact that the average age, so the retiring age in football, has certainly risen. So Enter, of course, is proof of that. Mkhitaryan still now, I can see him running around the pitch like a mad horse. And that fitness level, you cannot, you can be young and fit, but you need to have also the experience. So I think it's always wrong to say, and I would never, that's something about football that always strikes me when people call a player finished. How do you know? He's finished when he's decided he's finished, maybe he's just going through a bad spell.
100%. And okay. I think that's what I've always loved about Italy in one sense, is because there's not been any discrimination like there is in the UK.
Yeah.
But, in the UK, it's almost like you're expected to just run and run and run. But I think when you have tactical nous, for want of a better word, tactical intelligence, that these players can last longer. And that's always been the case in Italy. We can go back and we can look at the likes of Maldini or Zanetti, or we can carry on going through a million different people. But, I think that, like you say, with Mickey or with whoever, there is that ability. And I think that the way that people look after themselves is huge to that as well. Like, for instance, Jan Sommer, for me, I'm looking at him thinking, well, he's not going to stop.
No, it's a bit different when you're playing goal. It's a bit different when you're playing goal, but yeah, I don't think he's gonna.
I'm not sure.
Well, if you keep playing, or like if you're good goalkeeper like Jan Sommer.
Thanks.
Listen, Napoli, of course, is always a tough ground. We all know that. The atmosphere is crazy, the fans, everything. I've got a confession to make. I have never been to Napoli in my life.
Okay.
I don't know why. Maybe because I've always been the kind of girl that prefers to visit European cities or go abroad. And when I do that as well, I like to visit with a local. So I don't like to be a tourist. I want to take a local to take me there. So I think I was waiting for that chance, because it'd be amazing for me to go to be a Napolitan for one day. If anyone offers to do that, please. But Richard is not invited, because he'll just take you to posh places, and you won't see anything about Napoli at that point. I'm not saying there are no posh places in Napoli. I'm saying that the authentic corners, the little shop with the old woman talking to you, you won't see it with Richard.
No, I'll probably do a rooftop terrace, to be honest.
Yeah, exactly. He's just a Brit abroad. That's what you are.
We honeymooned in Amalfi Coast, Capri, Sorrento, and so I was probably more that way. But I have been to Naples, and I have been to the stadium, and it's Naples in itself is, for me, almost a different country. It's incredible. It's an amazing place. And, when I grew up, again, showing my age, it was the years of people like Luigi Di Agostini, Careca, Maradona, of course. It was an incredible side.
So are we going to reminisce straight away?
I can do if you want, easily.
So, Richard wanted to reminisce about a decisive game back in '99. If you guessed the game, you can tell us. Otherwise, Richard, feel free to enlighten us with what you've got.
Yeah, there's loads of different games with Inter. I mean, from when I grew up, when you had that competition, when you had the likes of, obviously, Milan were in their growth period, Sampdoria were excellent at the time, Napoli were unbelievable with that squad, with the likes of Careca, Maradona, Alameo. It was unbelievable. And Inter, of course, with the likes of Ferdi, Bergami, Mateus, Klinsmann came later, but it was brilliant. So there are a lot of different paths to talk about, and obviously Inter went toe to toe with Napoli for quite some time, but it's always been a difficult place for Inter to go. And one of the games that I remember so much was one that I didn't, it was back, when was it now? I think was it 96, 99? When Inter really weren't expecting to win. No, it was 96, I think it was February. And they, the forward line, you'll obviously remember Maurizio Gans and
Yeah.
someone who's very well known to our club in Branca, with Carboni sitting in that number 10 spot. Obviously, Zanetti played Pagliuca, Paganini and Festa, Roberto Carlos, Paul Ince. So it was just that borderline area where we were just taking off again. And to beat Napoli 4-0 in that time, I mean, one of the players who randomly I used to really love was David Fontolan as well. But, Gans got a brace, so did Branca, away in Naples. And it was a real transition point because Napoli at that point were obviously not doing as well. They were in the sort of, they would obviously be relegated not so long afterwards. But yeah, there's been so many memories, but it's a difficult place to go. It's always going to be hard. I mean, we've had some great results there. The one I'm mentioning, the 4-0, going right back, even though when I'm talking about San Siro with Mateus' free kick, which won us the league, there's so many memories. But like you said,
that match I wanted to talk about with the one in San Siro is because, of course, there is this factor where there have been, especially even last season, decisive games where we were neck and neck with 1 point, separating title, win the title or not. So with Napoli is always being high pressure for over the games that we have played. The last 3 games gave us a 1-1 draw result, which tells the story of how balanced it was. But the game you were referring to, the home game against Napoli, with the Matteo's goal from a free kick, was of course a decisive game that gave us the title. And I think a lot of the Inter fans remember that with pleasure. And I think that it's nice to see these images. That's the kind of memories we've got. Is Napoli, Maradona's Napoli. I mean, it doesn't get any better than that, I think. It doesn't get any better than that. I think also the fact that it's so balanced now, the 3-1-1 results, considering that Napoli are the titles holder.
Absolutely. I mean, we're seeing some images there, like you say. It was always close back in the day when you're looking at the likes of, Maradona and, like I said before, Alamaya, Carreca and stuff. And, there you can see, obviously, Walter Zenga and other players there that were iconic. And I think that it's probably now with Napoli, like you say, as title holders, that it feels as relevant now as it does any time. I mean, there's that Lothar Matthäus free kick, which was obviously huge for us. And it does make a big difference because I do think that when you're looking at the end of the season, it's going to be the likes of Napoli and Inter at the top. And so this game is huge. I mean, obviously the game against Roma was massive to put ourselves back on the map.
This game is not as huge as playing the last match day of the league. No, it's not. But it tells us a lot. It tells us the story of where this campaign could take us. It's early days. It's only match day 8. But of course, it will give us a massive boost of confidence if we were to come away from Napoli with a positive result. Napoli are now, of course, in a tough situation because they have just had a heavy defeat in the Champions League against PSV.
Yeah.
And then a heavy or unexpected defeat in the league. So, I mean, we must not underestimate or take it easy because, of course, they are coming here a bit deflated, a bit, sad, disappointed what happened. They are probably they are probably welcoming us with the idea of getting some redemption. So it's hard to say.
Yeah, I mean, when you look at that game, what was it, 6-2 against PSV, one of our old boys, Ivan Perisic, doing exceptionally well against him. But yeah, I mean, when you look, there's a lot of questions over the likes of Milinkovic-Savic, who, as a goalkeeper, is difficult because sometimes he can be very on form and sometimes very off form. So, I do think that they have got weaknesses in that squad, and it is difficult. It's difficult to understand how they're going to perform. But I think that when it comes to Serie A, this is the big season for me because when we look, and we also obviously know Antonio Conte, it's great when it's just a domestic season. that's not a problem. But when you've got Europe to have as
it's
well,
tougher, of course.
it's
Much
tough. And that's when I look at our depth of what we've got, and we talked about the likes of Boni, Esposito. That's where I think we're more equipped for this than Napoli.
We've got that depth because I was saying to you before that just in the league we had 9 different men on the score sheet so far, which is kind of a repeat play from what happened the previous season, where everyone was scoring. Goals were coming from all over the place, not just Lautaro and Thuram. There were a lot of scorers. If you can name them, name them. And also we got 5 goals scored with a header. I know one player in particular that is very keen now scoring goal with his head. He won't be playing in Napoli, and that's Marcus Thuram. He scored 2. Bastoni scored the other one. Lautaro scored against Cagliari, a header against Cagliari. Angie Boni scored against Cremonese. And that's it. I think I named them all.
I think, but as well, when you look at the sort of, when you've got deliveries coming in from the likes of DiMarco, for instance, I mean, it'd be a sin not to be able to connect with that and to, make the most of it. And I think that with Inter as well, it's great for me to see because, I look at it, I think we've got goals coming from all over the place, from whether it's set plays, whether it's from the counter-attack or the break. Let me use an example. If I look at Arsenal are doing really well, for instance, this season in the UK, they get heavily criticised. We've only been scored from set pieces, but we can't say that because we can get goals from pretty much everywhere.
Yeah.
So it's good
Federico
to
Di Marco, actually, sorry, just to say something related to that, created 11 clear chances for his team. It's no one else has done any more than that this season. And if he plays tomorrow, I guess he will reach 200 appearances in an Inter shirt in all competitions. And another player who's reaching a huge milestone is Nicola Barella, who is going to compete for the 300th time in an Inter shirt. And Barella as well is got a huge number as well, that I want to say. 42 recoveries for Inter in the league campaign. Only Patrizio Mazzini totaled the same amount. So you've got 2 key players that have reached a huge milestone and have already recorded amazing numbers at Inter. Now, though, the question I wanted to ask you is this, because you're the more expert on the pitch about how the team is going to move around, because we are still trying to figure out what Kivu's plan is going to be. I mean, we have an idea, but how are you going to adapt that to the tactical plan of Napoli, the 4-1-4-1 formation?
Yeah, I think it's difficult for Kivu in one respect, because obviously we all know that Simone Inzaghi did an incredible job. And so he's got to sort of keep hold of the basics of that, but also put his own identity on that. And I think what we're seeing, like you previously mentioned, is his ability to motivate the players is different. It reminds me of coaches of old. He's got a bit more, I don't know, like you say, he knows the club inside out. He's got his own personality he wants to put on that. But I think he's doing it in the right way. He's not trying to change everything straight away. And, I think a lot of the great coaches have done that, whether you go back to the likes, I'm not just talking about with Inter, but if you talk about the likes of Mancini, Mourinho, wherever they've been, or in the past, they tend to come in and start to tinker, for want of a better word, with the situation.
But what do you think what do you think are the dangers, the threats that he's looking at for the game tomorrow?
Against Napoli,
Yeah.
I think the biggest one at the moment is, and I find it bizarre to say, is Scott McTominay is so dangerous. I think that midfield area there, I think that he needs to look at the play out wide. I think that the likes of the threats from Dumfries and DiMarco will particularly be beneficial for what he's trying to do against Napoli. I think we'll get more space there. But I think the danger, and I think that's where Barella and some of the, he's got to maybe look a little more defensive in that midfield area, because that's where Napoli have come through. They've come through the middle, very much so. And having that almost, correct my Italian, is it trequartista sort of role?
Trequartista, yes.
that Scott McTominay's sort of playing. He's almost playing like a number 10 from the 1980s, and it's incredible. So I think that midfield needs to be stunted a little bit. But DiMarco, Dumfries on the wide play, I think that Inter will be okay.
What about their defense?
So. Cozy.
Cozy.
Cozy. No, I think it's look, I think with Napoli at the moment, they're obviously trying to put a statement down, but it's whether they can, I'm still questionable of Milinkovic-Savic in goal more than anything. I think that when he's having a good game, he's extremely good. When you look at Jan Sommer, he's just, what you're getting every game. It's very easy. But I think when you look at the likes of Milinkovic-Savic, it's really strange because you look at Alex Merritt, and the problem they had with him was that they didn't have the consistency. And they've replaced him with someone who doesn't have the consistency. And so it's going to be really interesting. When he was at Torino, I think that Milinkovic-Savic was used to being under pressure all the time. And I know this sounds a strange thing to say, but I don't think he's as good when he's not under pressure.
Right.
Because in those moments when all of a sudden you need to switch on in the last minute because your team is dominating, I don't think that's where he's as good. Defensively, Napoli can mostly, contain most teams, but every so often, I think, especially in the wide positions, I think we'll have some success.
Just to sum up what Kivu said in the press conference, obviously stated that, I was referring to about Diouf and Enrique, that they are ready technically, and they've got plenty of qualities, but mentally they're still not there. He was very honest about it, and he said their time will come sooner or later. I think soon enough it will come. We have plenty of opportunities with all these. Next week we're about to go with the playing against Kairat Almaty at home. So there's space for everyone. And what else did he mention? It was pretty funny press conference altogether. You can check it out just here in the links provided here. And it's always the fact that he is thinking about the team day by day, working hard day by day, involving everybody and approaching each game with the same manner as any other game. So that's, if you can keep focused, concentrated, and not underestimate the opponent or put too much pressure on yourself for that particular opponent, I think he thinks that's, to keep your cool at all time. That's the key. Yeah. And it's not easy to do that. It's not easy, but I think if you can do that, then it'll go far in this campaign. So.
Yeah, massively. I think just on that note, I think that when you have players who are ready to play, I know that sounds really strange, but sometimes you can have a very set 11 that is where you're trying to get to. But when you've got players who can sort of come in and out the squad and pick up it under pressure, that's really important. I think that's what he's trying to do. But as you rightly say, those players need to come in at the right moments, because you don't want to dent their confidence. Yeah. You don't want to expose them, for instance, if we're looking at Napoli.
Exactly.
It's got to be done in the right way, in the right time. And I think that's something he's certainly doing really well.
Right, Richard. That's all we got for today, all the time we've got. And it's been a pleasure chatting to you. I hope you enjoyed the show, as always. And kickoff tomorrow is at 6 Italy time. UK time is at 5. Correct? Because Richard always messes up the time we've got to meet for the show. It drives me crazy. And I wanted to say another word so that you know.
I knew you'd either say to me today, it's going to be about the time, about my injury.
No,
you
exactly.
haven't mentioned my age today.
I haven't mentioned your age, no. Well, I think everyone knows that we're old and a bit, our memory is not that good. Short memory, at least. So thank you, Richard. Thank you all for watching, and see you all next time.
See you next time. Ciao.
See you next time. Thank you. Bye-bye. See ya.